How's it going? I'm Alex Soltani. Thank you so much for tuning back in on the Davidson Facebook page. We are here with the Word Art and Japanese Printmaking course. We have Lauren Crane here and Ella Sams, who will be speaking to you a little bit about their books that they created for this course specifically. So, Lauren, could you talk a little about your book and show the book to us and explain sort of your vision behind it?
Yeah, so this is Hello Mountain. So this was a Japanese printmaking course, and a large part of Japanese culture is an appreciation for nature. So over Easter break with Davidson Outdoors, I went on a backpacking trip with 6 other Davidson students, and that kind of inspired this book. So it's called Hello Mountain, and it depicts scenes from my trip using screen printing and watercolor, and it has 3D aspects, such as like this is a cave we saw, and it's got a little pop-up. And then, like, here's a creek and a shelter that we stayed at one night that was on the AT, and we got to stay there with some other Appalachian Trail hikers. And it uses some other mediums, like this is a page of string based off of a picture of a sunset that I took. And then there's a nice little panorama scene to finish the book. And I bound it myself, just using, like, cardboard and string and a stick to bind it.
Could you talk a little about the artistic medium that you all use? How did you sort of go about making physically the book?
Mm-hmm. So in the beginning of the course, we did wood cutting and screen printing, and wood cutting is a very difficult process, so I chose to go the screen printing route. So this is a screen print, and each color is a different layer. So the trees are their own layer, and then the blue rocks, and then the shading on the rocks. And you just have to shoot the image on a screen, and then you can coat that screen with paint, and that's how you get it on it.
That's so fascinating. I could never do anything close to this. That's incredible. And then, Ella, could you talk a little about your book also, and could you talk to the style that you decided to use for this project?
Yeah, so this book is called B Theory, and I'll start from the beginning. So this is what the title looks like. B Theory, just for some background, opposed to A Theory is of time. A Theory is the idea that we are in the present tense and we're moving forward in a linear motion. But B Theory is the idea that what if your past, present, and future could equally exist? So instead of a linear forward motion, you've got what you see here by the string is a corkscrew, and it goes up. And it's also kind of circular because eventually it takes you back over where you came from to start with. So to do this, I'm kind of bringing the audience through, and I'll kind of show you, through their own lives. So it's dedicated to the audience, from the audience after they've died, to give you kind of an experience of, I don't know, like, did you appreciate your time while you were alive? Do you feel like you missed anything? So I took a lot of inspiration from a lot of the graphic novels that we looked at. Like Nick Susanis, he did his dissertation in a graphic novel, kind of philosophical sort of thing, and I took a lot of inspiration from that because I really liked, like, for example here, when you include bold colors like this, it really catches the eye and can create a metaphor that eventually kind of contributes to the entire sculpture as a whole. And right here you've got, I don't have a light with me, but the idea is that this is a memory, and if you shine a light down, you get the shadow that creates sort of lines that look different when you contract it or expand it. So assuming that's a moment in time, some people view it differently than others.
That's incredible. Wow. That's wow. I don't even know what to say, honestly. This is just, I could never have imagined doing something like this artistically.
I feel like you could have started with the right.
Just so cool, the shape of it all and the way that you, it looks like a book from the beginning, and then when you open it up, it turns out to be something so much more incredible. Wow. Whew, okay. I am, no, honestly. So we're going to move over outside to the wall atrium. We have the Fields of Elysium. And Jacob, do you want to talk a little bit about what Fields of Elysium is?
So the Fields of Elysium is an original musical written as a project by seniors Ed Pritchard and Austin Bowley. Ed is a theater major, but Austin is not, but together they have gotten together to write this original musical, and today we are privileged to see the first act of the musical in a staged reading format put on by a group of students. Let's see. the
It's going to rain. Finally, it's going to rain.
Oh, more Elise.
Why do you sleep in there? We have
Spike bushes provide great camouflage. Nothing can get me in there.
nothing to you anywhere. You're Georgie the Destroyer.
Tell that to those chickens. If you ever wonder whether they would mind sharing their lunch, you want to know more. And pick them to the proud race.
I'll bring you some food tomorrow when I come down. Anyway, did you hear what I said? It's going to rain! Mom said we're finally going to get some rain.
Oh no! Really? That's awful.
George. So, guess where we're going today?
No!
Yes!
No!
Yeah!
Why? It's so dull, it's so gray, so wet.
Well, did you hear me before? It's going to rain. We've been waiting for this for
Oh,
weeks.
yay! We've been waiting for rain for ages. But what about the Brazilian rainforest? The Amazon? The crazy exotic animals we could see from deforestation? How cool would that be? I mean, are we even environmental superheroes if we haven't been to the Amazon?
I mean, we've never been to London. You used to live there. You could show me around.
What
It'd be
about here? It's already going to rain here. It'll rain for half an hour or so, and then it'll be sunny again, and we can get
We're
on.
going, George. I've already come up with some of the plots for our next adventure.
What about we mix it up and go nowhere?
Seen on stage right now, we have Kenzie Potter and Colin Epstein, who are both members of the class of 2018. Neither of whom are theater majors, but both of whom are involved in this production. Both will be singing later on down the road. So if you're on campus, make sure to get over to the Wall Atrium around 1.
Oh, it is one. Awesome. And outside, we have a physics class doing a Pinewood Derby-esque racing. They're using gravity to accelerate their cars down this wooden plank here. So if we could get a quick...
Nick, you don't need this.
Yeah. Come on, Nick. Ready? Showtime.
Yeah. Sure.
3, 2, 1.
Ooh. Oh, no.
And we have Andrew Ayala here. He's a senior, and he's in this course. Andrew, could you talk a little about the process behind making these cars and what we're seeing here today?
Yeah, so well, this is an advanced lab physics course. Oh, sorry.
Race. Colin versus Nick.
Yeah, sorry. So our advanced lab class made these little Pinewood Derby racer-like cars, and we're racing them down this track. We're using O-rings, aluminum chassis, brass axles. Oh, sorry, the championship race is actually going on now. So.
2, 1. Oh, let's go,
Yeah, so basically, at the end of the semester, we were tasked with making these cars, and now we're racing them to get a little grade boost. Winner gets a little 1/3 grade boost in their advanced lab class. Yeah,
That's great. That's a fun extra credit project. Awesome.
and there's our champion now.
That's awesome. Yeah, congratulations to Nick. It's a nice extra credit trophy there. Show off to your parents. A little hardware. Awesome. And Bridget, do you want to? We're gonna walk and talk a little bit. Could you talk to the camera a little bit about your thesis that you've conducted this past year and what you found?
Yeah, absolutely. So my major is in the Center for Interdisciplinary Studies, and so I study communication studies and social justice, which is basically a combination of political science, sociology, and communication studies. And I actually just defended my thesis 2 weeks ago and presented it this morning. And so thank you. It feels good. And my research was specifically on curated campaign communication, and I wanted to focus in on the 2016 election and on the nominating conventions of the election. And so I analyzed the feminine style and hegemonic masculinity in spousal speeches over the past since 1992, but specifically focusing on how 2016 kind of disrupted this existing genre. So it was very in-depth on Melania Trump and Bill Clinton's spousal speech, which was really fun. It was a really fun project, and I had great advisors helping me through. And it was great to be interdisciplinary because I could combine my political science seminar with the work that I've been doing in communication studies and my sociology, social change classes, and my gender and sexuality studies minor, all into one kind of final capstone thesis project.
What did you end up seeing between Melania and Bill's speeches that sort of popped out at you?
Yeah, so there are three main things that we expect to find in spousal speeches since 1992 to 2012. And we basically found that Melania Trump did not adhere to any of these existing norms, which might be unexpected considering the more traditional role she plays, whereas Bill Clinton actually gave a far more traditional spousal speech, but it was still seen as something we've never seen before because of his status as former president and, you know, Bill Clinton.
That's so cool. And I think over here now we're in front of Sloan, the music building on campus, and there's it's Terry Riley in C. It's an interactive performance.
So yeah, I'm reading off the poster here, but this is a demonstration of a style of music called aleatoric. Same root word as alien. It sounds foreign, otherworldly. It is a very, very contemporary style of music that was kind of born out of the same time period as the Lost Generation, post-World War I, World War II, and moving into more contemporary performance. This is actually an interactive exhibit, so I think here we're going to see Alex and Bridget hop in on the marimba and give it a whirl. Playing in a wonderful unison between the two of them. Rest of the group establishing more of the aleatoric nuance to the piece. Here we see a combined ensemble of both faculty and students from the music department. Mauro Botello, departmental chair, over here on the keys, and Dr. Tara Keith, the conductor of the orchestra and also the conducting instructor on the marimba over here. Alex and Bridget still trying to piece together part of the piece on the xylophone here. A wild ride. A fun demonstration of a very different musical form that most people are familiar with, and a good example of faculty and student collaboration at Davidson. The arts are known for it. We don't have enough majors typically to fuel works completely done by only students or only faculty a lot of times, so we see a lot of really cool collaboration come out of our music departments and theater departments and other places. Now we're in another poster fair.
Sure, yeah. So we're going to go ahead and... yeah.
Somebody's supposed to have a poster now at the humanities presentation. Oh, you were at 10:30?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought I had listened to use humanities, but that's okay. Sorry. Yeah, interview King.
No, I have nothing to say.
So we're here at the music poster fair, and we'll go ahead and talk to Ed Henderson here. Ed built a lyre, the classical instrument, and so he's going to talk to a little bit too about the process behind that and what he has developed musically along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. So the first segment of this research actually was to construct this instrument here, which is it's an ancient Greek lyre. This is modeled after the instruments that would have been found in around the 5th or 4th century BC. And then the main part of this research is right here, which is the composition of music to accompany ancient Greek poems. So I made 5 selections of poems to go along with what are called modes, which are effectively kind of our genres in modern-day music. And I went through a 4-stage process. So I started with the Greek, and then I wrote out the meter, which is basically almost like a rhythm of the poetry. I wrote in modern musical notes, and then wrote in the ancient musical notation down on the right. And I did this for 5 compositions.
And how long did it take you to make that lyre that's sitting right there?
It took around 4 or 5 months to make. It's all made by hand and during classes and whatnot. So
it's fascinating that it's made by a tortoise shell on the bottom too. That's so cool.
The tortoise shell is on the back side here, and then olive wood for all the wooden components.
Where does one get a tortoise shell? Where does one find a tortoise shell for a project?
I had to get it online at basically a museum specimen supplier that kind of sells skeletons and whatnot. And that was the only place I could find it.
Thanks so much, Ed. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
All right, we're going to move over to our next example of student research. And so we're going to talk really quickly to Connor Haycox, and he studied infectious discontent, and he studied pandemic influenza and social crisis in Spain. So can you tell us a little bit, I'm going to come over here, can you tell us a little bit about your research?
Yeah, so I studied the social crisis in early 20th century Spain through the lens of pandemic influenza, and really argued that the Spanish flu provides a unique lens to see how different social groups banded together and created new social reform movements as a result of the flu.
That's awesome. And what would you say was the most surprising thing you found, either about the research process or your research itself?
So the last part of my thesis really focused on anarchists, and what was really interesting about anarchists is that they use the flu as kind of a new weapon against public authorities. Like, they hoped that the flu would kind of take out all government authorities, which was really, I wasn't expecting to find that, so it was pretty cool.
And are there, future steps that you suggest for research on this topic, or are there future steps you're planning to take?
So I'm pretty done with it right now, but I think future scholarship could probably focus on more like establishing like international narratives about the Spanish flu. Those are still kind of forthcoming, so I think that'd be a good step to take.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Oh, I guess we're going to move now to talking to Ikra Javid. Can we bump in really quickly?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to talk to Ikra about her research. Can you tell us just a little bit about your project?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a senior history major, and I was part of the Kelly program. I was interested in researching the history of non-normative sexualities and genders in Pakistan, and I realized that was going to be a whole project. I mean, digging through the archive and finding these sources takes a very long time. So I tried to use the few sources that I could find, and it turned into a thesis what was first on non-normative sexualities and genders, and more onto the discourse around it. So how were the few sources that I found, this magazine that was started in the 90s as a form of protest against the state that talked about these issues, how did these journalists talk about it? Why? What were their interests? What else did they write about? And really looking around the politics of the formation of the magazine newsline itself.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And are we? Oh, yeah. Oh, we're going to head back outside. All right. Can I pass?
Yeah, sure. So we're heading back outside.
Oh, we skipped one.
Oh my gosh.
We missed one. I'm sorry.
Brian.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, please. Brian, if you could talk a little bit about your research you've conducted for your thesis this past year.
Sure. So my project looked at the desegregation of medicine, and I'm a pre-med student who was also in the history department and had a great chance to do the Kelly program, in which they fund all of our travel. And I was interested in the desegregation of medicine, and that's a topic that really hasn't gotten a lot of attention, and all of it's looked at the national level. And as I was looking at that, I saw that all of the court cases came out of North Carolina that looked at the desegregation of medicine, and I ended up uncovering it. There's a network of black physicians through the Black Medical Society in the state that really pushed for the desegregation of medicine throughout the country, and were ultimately responsible for a lot of it. And their story had been really forgotten in the historical narrative. So I was able to travel to 8 archives in the state and visit a lot of different places that had these records that demonstrated how important black physicians had been in this process and how special North Carolina was. So it was a great opportunity to really uncover this narrative that had been forgotten.
Thank you so much. And Brian, actually, he won our history award this year, so congratulations to Brian. We're gonna head out now. Thank you all so much for tuning in to the 1 o'clock live stream. We'll be back later tonight, this afternoon, around 3 o'clock, to show you even more incredible work that our students here at Davidson College have been putting on throughout the past semester. Please go to alendalux.davidson.edu to see the full schedule. And as I said before, share your moment at #AlendaLux. Thank you so much, and see you at 3 o'clock.